This is my speech on why I never wanted to be a teacher. I never wanted to be a teacher. Growing up, I remember nights around the dinner table listening to my parents, who were both teachers, discussing a student or complaining about someone's parent. My mom taught home economics and my dad taught industrial technology. They seemed to enjoy it for the most part, and I remember the stories they used to tell me about the great students they taught over the years. I never wanted to be a teacher. My parents switched from being classroom teachers to guidance counselors. My mom excels at the profession, but I watched my dad become more and more miserable at his job until he retired a few years after I finished high school. He doesn't miss working out of school, and I think his mood when he taught and his mood now that he's retired is as different as night and day. I never wanted to be a teacher. Over the years, I dreamed of being a pet shop owner in second grade, a librarian in middle and high school, and then a museum curator in college. I never wanted to be a teacher. In high school, I volunteered at a local historical society, which set my path in the direction of working in more museum and archive settings. I ended up with a degree in American Studies from Miami University and minors in history and art history. I was sure I had found my calling. I never wanted to be a teacher. My junior year in college, everything changed. I took a job at the Miami University Art Museum as the assistant to the curator of education. When I was originally offered the job, I declined. I felt it was more suited for an education major, specifically an art education major, since I'm not good at drawing or creating crafty things. The curator disagreed and urged me to reconsider. I ended up accepting the job offer and spent the next 2 years working at gallery openings, planning activities for children, and working with docents. I loved my job and was so sad to leave when I graduated in August of 2010. After graduation, I was determined to find another job like that one. I never wanted to be a teacher. 6 months passed and I had been unable to find a job working in a museum or even a library. I had several interviews, but no luck. I was starting to think about going back to school, but couldn't decide between library science, museum studies, or art history. All I knew was that I needed a master's degree in something that would get me a job. I thought back to the time that I spent at the art museum and realized that I should obtain a master's degree in education. I had no desire to be a traditional classroom teacher, but many of the jobs I saw wanted someone who knew the standards and had teaching experience. I moved to Dayton and started taking classes again in winter of 2011 at Wright State University. I had no idea what I was getting into, and of course my family of teachers warned me of all the problems I would be facing, like teaching to the test and not making much money. I soon met some of the people who are now my closest friends and discovered that I love planning lessons but hates that they're 5 pages or more. Even though I loved my classes at Wright State, I still worried about student teaching and if I would be able to survive. My first placement took a lot of getting used to, but by the end of the year I didn't want to leave. I returned to complete my student teaching due to some problems I couldn't control. I ultimately ended up leaving my school. I miss my students sometimes, but I know deep down that I made the right decision to leave. Now I'm at my new school, and I'm feeling a lot more confident about my career choice. My CT is extremely helpful, and the students are wonderfully behaved. I love how excited they are about learning, and that some of them read the same books I do. Just before Thanksgiving, one of my students and I were talking about a series that we both enjoyed reading, Crossed by Ali Condie. She offered to let me borrow the second book in the series, which is called Crossed. First one's matched. And I took it home to read during break. I read it, really enjoyed it, and I'm happy that I'm starting to build more of a relationship with my students. Graduate school has been stressful, and there are those days where I want to give up and just find a museum job so I can lock myself away and not be bothered with a bunch of screaming children. Then there are the other days where I'm having a great conversation with one of my students, getting hugs, and being given beautiful crayon masterpieces that currently hang on my refrigerator. I spent most of my life avoiding the teaching profession. Even though I'm not someone who loved playing school as a child or always wanted to be a teacher, I still feel like I belong, and I'm happy I made this decision. I never wanted to be a teacher.